We are going live. I feel like I need music.
And it notified me. Thank you, YouTube.
Thinking. Did it notify you?
Yeah, it did.
Awesome.
Well, I have you and Quincy both.
Okay. All right, we're going live. We're getting in there. We're gonna. Oh, goodness. Good morning. Good afternoon. My mornings go a little bit longer. I am a total. I am a full-fledged swing shift type person. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's chit chat. I really feel like I'm gonna start singing. That's what I want to do. Start singing. Okay. Let's see.
There you go.
Okay. Just waiting for everybody to get on in. Hey guys. Good afternoon. Just gonna give a few minutes for everybody to get those notifications if Facebook and YouTube so deem worthy of sending them out to everybody. I know some people get them, some people don't. I had somebody get a notification for something I posted 3 days ago. So, I mean, I guess in 3 days we'll see you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. Super Dave, Massachusetts. Awesome. Fantastic to see you. Hey, Lenore. Hi, guys. Okay. So today we are going to be talking about a piece of homeschooling. So I'm going to be doing several podcasts here about homeschool. We're getting in the groove of going back to school now. And I just want you to know, first and foremost, I know that I'm late on tackling this topic, but it is never too late to snatch your kid out of public school and bring them home. The best time is right now, wherever you're at. So, nice to see you guys. And I have Yanita on the phone with us today so she can talk about, so we can have the conversation about how homeschool, bringing your kids home will affect the system, the public system. And to be honest with you, that's what we want to do. This is the only way these people here is when their income stream is being, their profit is being messed with. So it's not only super beneficial for you and your children in the most amazing ways, it's also good to see how the public school system will be affected by that. And so, hello, Yanita.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And
this is a great topic.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm really excited about this. And at some point, I'll give you guys a little tour of my homeschool setup in one of these shows. And then also, I want to go through an article that was written last year when they already knew what was going to be happening with this. Back in May of 2020, a Harvard staff person wrote an article stating that homeschool was dangerous. And I want to point out some things regarding her article because you can clearly see the agenda that they have and why they want people to think that it's dangerous. It's the same thing that I said back when January 6th happened. You guys know, well, for those who were watching BCP show at the time, I was on Trump's side. He never incited violence. And I believe that they made such a big deal about it because they wanted to instill such a fear that the citizens would never, ever rise up again. And so I wasn't against it, and I'm still not to this day. And so when they put out pieces like this, trying to so intensely discourage people from homeschooling their children, you know for a fact that there's something that they don't want you to find out, you know. And in this case, it's the massive benefits. So let's see here. Where do we want to go? Do we want to start with our conversation about this, or do we want to start with this article and talk about it together? Which would you like to do?
I think let's just, I want people to know that, like you said, this is not this isn't going to happen overnight.
Right.
If the change isn't going to happen overnight. The movement happens one step at a time. Mm-hmm. And every family needs to make the right decision for their family. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yes.
Not what the social norms are. This is important. So with that, go ahead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. This is definitely a marathon. Okay. So let me pull this in real quick. Okay. And I'm not going to be showing that little box like BCP does because I'm not cool like him. Okay. And let's just real quick, let's just point out the fact that this is a raging liberal woman. I'm just going to call her Karen 10.0. I don't even know her, but this article right here says a lot about her. So she writes this out, a warning on homeschooling, and it's in interview fashion, but I want to point out a few things about it. So this article is based on the idea that children are in more danger of abuse at home with their parents, where there's this authoritarian relationship, which parents are the authority. So I'm not really sure when that became a bad thing. Okay, so it says the Gazette asked, how did homeschooling in the U.S. develop into such a fast-growing phenomenon over the past few decades? I want to point out, firstly, that we are only 200 or so years into the public school system. Now, in comparison to how long learning has been a thing, that is literally nothing. That's a blip on the scale of time. So homeschool did not become a rapidly growing phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon. It's normal. It is absolutely normal for parents to teach their children at home. The phenomenon is public school and sending your kids off to be taught by strangers. It's a blind trust where you're putting your kids into the care of complete strangers, most of which you will never meet, and some you'll meet once every 3 months or so for a parent-teacher conference. The government has instilled in us that this is normal. Send your kids to school. That's where they'll be educated. You'll never meet 98% of the people who are caring for them, but trust us. We've got this. Okay? So right off the bat, they start with a huge fallacy. And then Bartlett goes in to talking about how the movement was or is a conservative evangelical movement. So right there, I want you to understand that the basis for her article was that it's kids are in danger of being abused. But you'll notice throughout the article that she's really spotlighting. It's not that homeschooled children are in danger, but they're in danger of conservative Christian parents. That's who are the dangerous people. Conservative Christians and their ideologies and their values and their morals. They're so outside of what our society is. That's really the danger. And, just as a side note, there are tons of liberals who homeschool their children too. I've seen them in groups. There are a lot of secular families that homeschool their children, but she's really highlighting the conservative Christians here because ultimately that is going to be the most persecuted group of people on American soil. And we already
Bingo.
see it. Yeah.
Bingo.
Exactly.
Bingo. That's right there.
Yeah.
Because homeschooling was fine when the more liberal families homeschooled, you know, and now because it's a conservative evangelical movement, they see it as a danger.
Yes.
Well, it's because conservative parents have the power to change things. And the moment that they try to see the little bit of change, they want to quash that. And that's what we're going through right now.
Yes, it absolutely is. They're finding a way to turn everything around to be a conservatives are dangerous thing. I'm sorry. No, dude. No, because that's not. Speaking of, we've got a little one in here. Okay, so in this paragraph, they say that the conservatives wanted to escape from the secular education in public schools. So you've got this public school system, and everybody's like, "Wow, this is a really great idea." You know, women are starting to go to work, and we have a place to send our children so that we can make that happen. We've got 2-income homes, but then they start seeing, okay, hold on a second, they're not actually teaching the same values and morals that we as a traditional family believe in. So now they want to escape the education system. And they fought the battle with the public school systems to have them exempted from exposure to alternative values. So this is I want you to notice something also, is she's openly admitting these things. Why they're escaping alternative values. Alternative values? Yeah, those are a thing. And why should we have to be subject to that? But at least she's admitting that's what's being taught in school is alternative values. Things like no need to pledge allegiance to the flag. Things like there being this idea of 26 genders, or sex ed being taught to kindergartners, or, creating a racist, I'll never escape being a racist mentality for anybody with white skin, and I'll never escape being a victim for anybody with brown skin. Like, those are definitely alternative values that we are just not interested in. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Oh,
it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
So at least she's openly admitting that. She says, the Gazette asked, could you compare the homeschooling phenomenon in the U.S. to other countries? Now, here's a really good one. She goes through saying that other countries are far more regulated, and that the U.S. is kind of an anomaly. Well, why are we an anomaly? Because we value freedom, okay? Mm-hmm. We are not super regulated like other countries, and that's why we stand out in every area. It's not just homeschooling. We are the country of the free. Like, we are the land of the free. We don't need more regulations. That's why everybody wants to be here, because we are free. Yep. And it goes on to say that she believes that homeschooling regulation should ensure that the education parents are teaching should include the fundamental values of our society. No, thank you. I'm not going to, that's why I'm pulling my kid out. Like, I'm not going to start teaching them nonsense like 26 gender that have nothing to, that aren't even scientifically based. I'm going to teach them that life begins at conception, not that it's okay to murder a baby at any stage of life. Like, that's why it's a no. I'm not going to teach them the values of society that is completely wicked and evil. Really, I mean, they just have so many evil things that aren't even scientifically based. There's no foundation. They don't even hold water. So it's this, but again, it's this thing where she's openly admitting that they are trying to indoctrinate our children. 1 second.
And we've seen the product of that, of the indoctrination, teachers. And they have to, I believe there was a new article or a video of a teacher today that came out, saw it today, him talking that he has 180 days to make, not for math or English, but to indoctrinate them and create them into, activists.
That is
that
crazy.
They'll know more about about protests, riots, than about math.
Absolutely. And that's
You know?
one school year.
Yep.
One school year. And kids are like sponges.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to because it happens so fast, I want to point out, I'm sorry, I feel so short. I want to point out that a lot of people over the years, especially Christians, have used the excuse that, well, I want to send my kids in there so that they can be a light, or they can, do this. Okay. The public school system is a mission field, and you don't send children into a mission field. If adults have struggle to overcome the evils in the world and overcome temptation, and what makes you think that children have the tools needed to overcome the evils of public school system when they can't even overcome basic peer pressure?
Exactly.
Like, this is a mission field, and our job as parents is to protect them, not send them into a war at the age of 6.
Exactly.
That just doesn't make sense. It's not realistic to believe that our children can defend their faith at 8 years old, or that they would have an answer as to the faith that is within them in and out of season. Like, it's just unrealistic to expect that. So I've never accepted that as a valid reason to send your kid into public school. You can have all kinds of reasons. That's not a valid one.
Especially when the kids, they're still trying to find their own way.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how many Bible studies, how many times you pray with your children, my 3 grew up in the church, and they went their separate way for a while, and they weren't the salt of, of the earth in those classrooms. And then to put that kind of pressure on any child, even if it's a 16-year-old, that's
Absolutely
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Parents still have to take responsibility, because I guarantee you, those parents are not the light of the salt and the light in their workplaces.
Probably
because
not.
I'll tell you, because I know, because I don't see them in my work.
And most people don't. Yeah, they think that just being nice is being a light. That is absolutely not being a light. I can tell you right now, because atheists are perfectly capable of having decent morals and being kind. What they are is God haters, though, and that is a determining factor. Anybody can hand somebody a bottled water, or shake a hand, or throw a smile. That is not being a light. So, think bigger. Think way bigger. So her article said that it's currently unregulated form represents a danger to both children and society. Again, here we are. She says that this article is based on children being endangered to abuse, but here it is again. Not only are they bringing in just this basic parent-to-child thing, but also society. That is woven into this entire interaction, is they are concerned that we're going to teach our children and it's going to go against their narrative. So it talks about the maltreatment of children, which I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. There are some really crazy people out there who do wicked things with their children, and they fully don't understand the essence of the Bible and discipline versus punishment and teaching versus torture. I mean, there's people out there. I mean, that's not, they're always going to be out there in every aspect of life. So it's really common sense. You don't write a whole article like blanketing everybody who homeschools that's a conservative. It just makes no sense. But other dangers are that children are simply not learning basic academic skills. Because academia is a income stream. That's all that is. Pipelining them through K through 12. Every year, you're filtering your money into big corporations for clothes and supplies, not only for your own child, but for other students, for teachers, because they don't have decent budgets, brand new clothes and all kinds of possessions and new items that they need, because apparently their pencil box they used last year won't work this year. Pipelining them through buying school pictures and yearbooks and graduations and the show and all of that, only to get a diploma that has no more value than a GED. It literally has zero extra value. And so it's a profit pipeline. Okay? So that's what academia is. Then they're being filtered off because they're being conditioned to believe the only option is a 4-year college, right? So then that's more profit. And these kids are going in, garnering massive amounts of student debt in majors that won't even lead to a job. And then now they're stuck for the rest of their lives paying interest on debt with no job.
Can I say something on that?
Yes.
On that, because I'm always about the money. It's always, to me, it's the only way you're going to control something is by the purse strings. And what I have discovered is these colleges. So these colleges take in the students apply, but some of these colleges are just universities. They're just ridiculous. But because they can bankrupt the parents. They put, the kids can take out as many loans as necessary to afford these universities, and they're pretty much selling their future with no guarantee of a return. And what happens is, as long as the money is available, as long as parents are paying these schools, they're going to continue to raise the tuition, and more, and colleges are going to get more expensive. What would happen if parents stopped doing that? Stop sending the kids to the university. There's a community college that you can get. It's very inexpensive to go to 2 years to get your associate's degree. Then you only have to go to the university for 2 years, to get your bachelor's. What if the money stops, the funding of these schools stops, and these parents demand it? You know what? If I'm going to send my kid there, I want some guarantee that they're going to be taught, and they're going to have a guarantee for a career.
Yes.
Some trade schools have that. When you sign up for a trade school, some trade schools say, yes, this is how we'll help you find a job, and this is the hiring rate. Why can't we start holding educational institutes accountable?
Absolutely.
Backtrack now to elementary or to public schools. What if parents said no? I believe, I'm not 100% sure. No, it's in the range. It's an average. Every student here in Oregon the schools get $14,000 a year per student. It might be a few $100s here or there, but that's the amount of money the state pays these schools to teach these students. That's a lot of money.
Right. That is.
These students, and if you homeschool, you're not getting that kind of money. So if we start to pull students out of the school, and basically with the mentality of let's defund the schools, the public school system. How about if it was treated like a corporation where you had to show results? Now Oregon doesn't require the kids to know math, reading, and writing to graduate. So you're going to put these kids out in the world, and they have nothing. They're basically, what they're going to compete with is the homeschool kids that are going to get those jobs.
Yep.
So they're going to be the hardworking kids. I know a lot of homeschool families, and I would hire any of those kids in a heartbeat if I had a business, because they have work ethic. They have a different type of mentality work-wise.
Yes.
I guarantee you, if most parents, I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but high school, if you have a high schooler, especially a junior and senior high school, even possibly sophomore, they can go work during the day.
Absolutely.
they can go get a job. At 14 years old, they're able to get a job. If they're homeschooled, they can go work during the day and have school in the evening.
My son's 15 and has a job. And it's
Exactly.
not a fast food.
Exactly.
He has legit, like, life skills and stepping stone type job.
Yes, I mentioned to him on Saturday that, because he has, his siblings, I said he's going to be able to have his own business because he's going to be able to understand working with multiple people. Yep. and having everyone have a role. These life skills that these kids, the homeschool children are being taught are invaluable. Mm-hmm. This is not anything that the public school system's teaching them. No. So, when we first started this, we were talking about, fight the school system. But honestly, the only way you're going to fight the school system for real is to cut them at the funding. Yeah. And it may not happen this year, but if you homeschool your kids now, next year, that school's not going to get those $14,000 for your kids.
Exactly.
I think several months ago, we said 30% of the students, if we could get a 30% drop in enrollment in the public school system, the Oregon Department of Education, or any Department of Education of any state, is going to feel it. Yes. That means less teachers and that are going to be able to indoctrinate your children. There's so many things, and I'm so happy that you're doing this, Jamie, because people need to understand that what people think the homeschool looks like is not really what homeschool looks like.
No. Well, because they have distorted it. So I had an interaction with a lady the other day who was saying that the information we were providing was not what the Oregon School Board shared with her. And I want to make sure that you guys understand that, okay, the Oregon School Board's main focus is public school. They don't have a clue what the laws and regulations regarding homeschool is. One, they could be intentionally lying. But I'm going to err on the side of probably not. I mean, I'm not saying it's far-fetched because they are a bunch of liars, but what I think is happening is that's not their genre. And so it's not something that they study. And they don't want people to pull their kids out of public school. So why would they go seek out the answers to give you legitimate, things to think about? So what everybody needs to do is go to HSLDA, which is Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and I'll talk more about this in our future podcast as well. But you can find every single homeschool, every single state, their laws, their regulations, the things you need to do specifically to make sure that you're lining up. Those are the people who are going to know the answers to your questions, not your school board. Your school board wants you to put your kid in public school and wants you to keep them there. So all of their answers are going to be in line with that agenda.
And the fear. They're going to put that fear in you. Like, we'll be watching you.
Right.
That kind of thing. Because I'm noticing a lot of people they're very apprehensive that they'll have a target on their back. And that's something that we need to help them understand that they can't, that's against the law.
It is
to be
against
targeted
the law
for no reason.
And that's just the thing is it's lawful to homeschool your child. So CPS isn't just going to be like, whoo, they're homeschooling? Well, let's go check that out. That's not how that works. Now, this is why I always advocate to stay connected and stay visible. There are people out there who have decided to homeschool their kids and retreated in, and nobody ever sees the kids of the family anymore. I don't advocate for that. Like last year during the pandemic, my kids were literally the only kids outside playing every single day, because I would be darned if I was going to be locked up into an apartment with 5 boys for 12 months. It was not going to happen. So my kids were outside while everybody else's kids were inside wondering how come they get to go out and play. Well, because we homeschool and we believe in freedom around here. That's why. So as far as talking about who was in the more dangerous position, it definitely wasn't my kids. And I'm the conservative evangelical people that this article is speaking about. So, yeah, definitely cultivate life with courage, because courage isn't the absence of fear. Fear is going to happen. Courage is taking the step despite the fear. And that's where the victory comes, right? We have to be brave and push through the fear, because it's not always like, I mean, fear is there to try and stop us, but that doesn't mean it has the power to stop us. It only has the amount of power that we allow it to have.
And community.
Yes.
Build your community.
Yes.
I have family members that homeschool their children, and they are very active in other groups, in other family groups with other families. They go hiking together. They go, and I'm thinking, I've been trained now so that if when I do visit or I see my family, that I'm always bringing them something. If I found I remember one time I didn't know what kind of bug that was. So I sent a picture to the homeschoolers because they're pretty smart. And do you know what they told me? Can you put it in a Ziploc bag and bring it to us? We'll analyze, like we'll look it under the microscope.
Right.
That mindset of like they can do anything, but this is your community. Is you build your community, grandparents, aunts, uncles. If you have an aunt or an uncle that's retired, and grandparents that are retired, solicit their help. That doesn't mean you need to have them to babysit. I mean, obviously they could, but have them, they have life skills too that they can participate in.
Absolutely.
I have a friend, my friend Carol, she said, she used to do, she's a life coach. She was a life coach before she retired. She helped people build their businesses. She said she'd be open to teach kids how to start their own business.
Absolutely.
Entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Don't ever think that someone can't teach someone. My husband loves woodworking. So, when he retires, I hope that he finds that niche with students to be able to have that with them, that to teach them. It doesn't have to be a classroom setting, anything can help. Any life skill can be useful, but bring your community in. Don't ostracize yourself, because I think, like you said, that's when the fear hits, because you're going to be outed. You're going to be find out that you're not doing anything illegal.
Right.
You shouldn't fear anything like that. And like you said, the more exposure you get, the more people know about it. You're going to either encourage others or you're going to have others come alongside of you. And I mean, I live in a really neat community because I know a lot of people that would be happy to help. I know there's a lot of homeschoolers, I think, in my neighborhood. Now with COVID, who knows, they're just home from school or, or they're homeschooled or not. But you see kids out playing. Like, never underestimate what you can contribute.
Yeah.
I'll even put it out there. I know there's a big, some families out in the Eugene area that are, because some of them live in apartments and smaller homes. They can't accommodate everybody. I think there's a community. The people in the community are helping them build a schoolroom.
Right.
The men can come in and put shelves up and put desks and anything can help. Community is becoming a big thing, and we've seen it because of COVID, who your real community is. Reach out to them. People want to feel useful and they want to participate, because, as I keep saying, these kids are our future. They're the ones that are going to be in leadership to decide what happens to us when we can no longer make decisions of our own. We're too old.
Yeah, and that's No, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish.
That's I keep encouraging parents to don't take the easy way out with your children. I know this might offend some people, but I'm not worried about offending the right. I'm not worried about offending. This is gonna be hurtful for some people. Stop sending your children to become a pastor or a worship leader.
Yes.
Or anything else. We need legislators, we need lawyers, we need doctors, we need judges, we need every area of our world, of our country, needs to have strong, conservative young men and women. Absolutely. We need to encourage them to be, because you imagine if we had right now, if most smart, conservative doctors could rise up and fight against the lies that were being told, that they could help us decipher the truth and the lies of this pandemic. Imagine the judges, if we had conservative judges, they were kids at one point.
Yes.
Don't forget that. People need to stop. Pastors are not out there changing the world, and neither are worship leaders.
No, they're not.
They're not. The ones right now, who are we looking to? The President of the United States and our legislation. That's who we're looking to help. Our elected officials and our courts.
Yeah.
So to me, I want these kids to thrive, to be raised with good morals and good values, and be patriots that can push against the lies and the liberal mindset and the indoctrination.
Absolutely. And it goes right in line with the fact that the church should be the welfare system, and they should be the standard.
Yes. Yes.
That's their job. It's not the government's job. It's the church's job. And it's always been. So, absolutely. And I've actually even heard of people, using a church for their schooling rooms as well.
That's awesome.
So in this next part of the article, it says that it was talking about the regulation and that they are both dangerous to children and society. I found it really interesting. It says many homeschooling parents are extreme ideologues committed to raising their children within their belief systems, isolated from any societal influence. Imagine that. Imagine that being a bad thing, that you're raising your child to have values and morals that go against the society and its influence. So, like I said in a previous show I did, is we raise our children within our beliefs, but we expect them to know why they believe it. Like, we're not just saying, hey, this is what we believe because I said so. Like, as a grown adult, I expect them not to go out into the world and say, I'm a Christian because my mom and my dad said I am. Like, that's not how it goes. And it's interesting that they put that in there, because that's exactly what the public school system does. This is what is, this is why, because we said so. That's exactly what the public school system does. And yet here they are saying, but if parents do it, that's extremely dangerous. We definitely need strangers to do it instead.
Yeah.
I mean, what level of dumb do you have to be to write this out and push submit with a straight face? They literally think that people are just outright stupid. And we need to pay attention to this kind of stuff when we're reading these things. They're really being very open about what they want. They want society and the constantly evolving definitions of words and the narrative to be the majority of influence in your child's life. And they want your child to be separate from the parents. They want them to resist the parents' ideologies and values and morals. And they want the society and the government to be the ones that are instilling those things. Here, it says in the last sentence here, it says that children may not have the chance to choose for themselves whether to exit these ideological communities. That sounds like a cult. And so they're using the extreme to justify the whole. And this is exactly the same thing we see with pro-choice people, is they use the extreme, like incest and rape, which make up less than 2% of all abortions. They use the extreme to justify the entire thing, which makes no sense. It's just a way to instill the fear and manipulate the argument. So society may not have the chance to teach them. Then we'll just change that. Government may not have the chance to teach them the values in the narrative that they want to teach them, such as tolerance of other people's views and values. Now, I would be so frank as to ask you, based on my recent interactions with these liberals, how tolerant have they been of my views and values? And these are people who went to places like, I don't know, say Harvard. So this is just bizarre that, I'm sorry, the whole time I've had you guys just on that, and I didn't mean to, I need to be more aware of that. But this is basically the craziness that they have put out there for all to read, and people are probably thinking, oh my gosh, the children are in danger. Well, yeah, they're in danger of freedom. They're in danger of being free from this crazy pipeline of compliance. Okay, it says. Go ahead.
Can you tell us again what that article is from? Some people joined a little late, so they want to know what article this is from.
Sure. So this is an article from May of 2020. It was put out last year when they saw what was likely going to happen. A writer by the name of Chris Snibbe, Harvard staff. Oh, no, that's a photographer. What's her name? Liz.
Down below by the date.
Liz Mineo, Harvard staff writer. She writes this article basically saying that homeschooling is dangerous for children because of the they can't escape their parents. And what we've seen in this article is not that it's not really the abuse, but they're highlighting the fact that conservative Christians are taking their children from public schools because they're trying to eliminate the societal influence that they have in their kids. Which, hallelujah. I'm glad that there's parents out there that have done this. Now, the only reason it got dangerous is when the conservative Christians became the dominant group. When it was liberals and Christians, they weren't saying too much about it. But now that the conservative Christians have become the dominant group, they have now decided the children are in danger. And what we've seen throughout this article is that it's the fact that the society won't have as big of influence, and the indoctrination and their narrative and their propaganda won't define these children's lives. That's really the gist of it. So it goes on to say, and this is the Harvard Gazette. So it goes on to say that given the current circumstances with schools canceled due to the corona pandemic, many parents are homeschooling their kids. Does this massive shift to homeschooling pose any risk for the children? This kind of goes into CPS and things that have happened there. Kids being at risk of, let's see. She was in total support of shutting down the schools. But believed that the majority of parents are capable of providing at least a minimal education. I mean, thanks to Liz for thinking that we're at least capable of providing the minimal education. Goodness gracious, if any of us might be more than that, right? Which we are, without presenting, right?
Which is kind of funny, because then she's proving the point that public schools suck.
Yes, public schools do suck.
If she thinks that, most parents that are teaching were not homeschooled themselves, so that means the parents aren't smart enough to teach their own kids. because they had a public school education.
Right? There
Sorry.
you go.
Sorry.
There
Sorry,
you go. That is spot on. That is spot on. So, it goes into the legal landscape of homeschooling. But what I wanted to point out here in this little quote, which is down here somewhere, but this quote right here, it says, the homeschooling lobby may be even more powerful than the gun lobby today, because at least with the gun lobby, we see a lot of pushback. When it comes to homeschooling, the victims are all children, so it's harder to mount a political movement. A political movement. Okay, children who are homeschooled are largely happier. And I want to point out, especially with sons, the public school system is not designed for boys. Now, anybody who has boys knows or has even experienced them being diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. Been told that they won't sit still, they won't focus, or the way that they word it is they can't sit still, they can't focus, they are to and fro, like it's not designed for them. And so they diagnose it as an illness, when really, instead of redesigning the system to better fit their needs as a child, as a male, because males and females are different on many different levels. We just do not operate the same. Our brain doesn't operate the same. So to create one system and expect male and females to interact with that system the same exact way is absurd. It is absolutely absurd. And so you'll see that a majority of ADD and ADHD children are males, and they're being prescribed medications that are even worse for them and causing more problems than not being able to focus and sit still in a classroom. Now, children who are at home and have the freedom rather than this hardcore structure of public school today are happier and they learn way better. So one of my kids, well, my oldest, they tried to diagnose with ADD, and I was like, no, he's fine. He's, he'll come through this and we'll figure it out, and it's not a big deal, right? So we pull him out of school, and sure enough, he's perfectly fine. I mean, his behavior didn't change. It was the system. It was where he was at that was the problem. It wasn't him. Like, he wasn't broken. So then I have another son who's 7, and I noticed in doing school with him, I can see the moment he shuts down. The moment he shuts down. I have learned to see when that happens. And when that happens, there is no more forcing. He doesn't take any more in. It's just not going to happen. And so if he was in public school, one, the teacher would never notice when he shut down. It would happen, and it would she or he wouldn't be present to see it, nor would he or she be able to really do anything. Because what are you going to do when you've got a ratio of 1 to 34? Teacher to child ratio. And even if there was something you could do, what if it takes longer, or what if he just needs to be done for the day? So a lot of times that's what happens at home is I'll see him shut down. I'll maybe finish up what we're doing. If it's a small portion of things, I'm like, okay, it's time for you to push through. We're going to push through to the end of this. Okay. Or sometimes it's like, yeah, we're going to be done for today, and we'll start right back up here tomorrow. We're not going to finish it out with everybody else and then move on and start somewhere completely different tomorrow. So now he's got a huge hole in the concept. And that continues to happen in public school to a lot of kids, where they shut down at some point during the day, no more goes in, they finish the lesson, and they start somewhere completely different tomorrow. Maybe it happens again, or in a couple more days. So all these kids have all these holes and it goes unnoticed, and no one cares. Nobody adjusts. Nobody decides, okay, this wasn't working. You'll notice when you start homeschooling, I think if you ask, 95% of homeschooling parents, what is the biggest obstacle in homeschool? It's curriculum. Because what works for one child won't necessarily work for another. What works this year won't necessarily work next year or halfway through the year. What works for me and my family isn't going to work for, I have a reading book that I use to teach my kids and to read, and it's been amazing. And I was like praising it. And I had a friend who was like, oh, my kid hates that. Like we could not get through that at all. So it's like, it's one of those things where this is what's happened. This is just two families with 6 kids. Can you imagine room after room after room of 20, 30 kids every single day, and no one is catching this stuff, and they've got one curriculum and they're trying to shove it down everybody's throat who's there? This is a really big deal. But part of what I wanted to point out was that they make it a political thing. It's all about politics. Teachers don't just teach math, reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. They're teaching their own political views. It's feelings based. It's
unhindered too.
Unhindered.
Flags and everything. I mean, T-shirts. I saw today in the news. They had some schools went back to school today, and the teacher was wearing a BLM mask. That hurts. Yep. Oh, I was upset. But just to touch on that, what you were talking about, the confidence in a child is, what? Kids can learn anything. Mm-hmm. But you know what? Once you start to tear down on that child's confidence and their self-worth, you might as well throw in the towel, because that's where that's what they're suffering. Yep. Kids can learn how to read. They can do math. They can do when they know they can do it. They're encouraged. If adults need self-care, need an ability to kind of, take a break from, take a walk, whatever. Kids don't have that. And we're training kids to never ask questions, to never say, hey, I just need a moment. I need to burn some fresh air. How many times do adults do that? Mm-hmm. And we're teaching kids, and then you end up, the adults end up with having other issues. But the biggest thing that I've noticed is the confidence in a child can overcome so many things. Yes. Their self-worth, oh my goodness. You tell a child they could do anything, and if they can believe that, they'll do it. They'll surprise you. Yep. The Lord didn't make children weaklings. He made them so resilient. Yes. Oh my gosh. And for us to think that they're somehow broken and they need all this, they need, safe spaces. No, the kids are amazing if you just show them what they can do and feed the right areas of what they need. Some kids are just different. Not all children are the same. Absolutely. So. Absolutely. And as parents, I see that as one of the major benefits of being home with my children is I can catch things like that. Not only do I get to see when they learn something, because let me tell you, okay, I'm talking about the little holes, and we'll start back up tomorrow. We may need to do that for like 2 weeks. Okay, they're not getting this concept. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll do it again tomorrow. And it's super simple things. To me, I'm 40. To him, who is 7, it's not a super simple thing. He's learning it, right? So there's these moments where you've been working on something or a concept for like 3 days or 2 weeks, and all of a sudden it clicks, and it's like you get to witness that. It is absolutely amazing. And then there's the moments where you see them shut down, and it's like, you know what? You get to just take them in your arms. You can give them a hug, and you can say, you know what? We'll do this tomorrow. Let's be done for the day. And I'm not going to put it all on them, because there's days where I shut down. And I'm like, okay, we're done for the day. We'll start again tomorrow. So, I get to do that, and they get to do that. And that's just the beauty of homeschooling. It is so flexible. It is so, so flexible. And we will go through
and another show the different laws and regulations and things for each state. I won't go through each state, but what that kind of looks like. And I'll bring on some friends who are actually in different states that are dealing with the different regulations and stuff to kind of give some insight into that. Those will be two separate shows. But okay, so it goes on to talk about different states again and not having enough regulation, because we definitely need more government overreach. And it all comes down to basically stifling our freedoms. Supporters of homeschooling can point to examples of successful homeschooled kids, which, by the way, homeschooled kids actually have a higher graduation rate from college than public school kids. Some study in Ivy League institutions, such as Billie Eilish, who has been completely destroyed by the industry, by the way. So how do you respond to those critiques? She says, of course, in a large population, there are going to be some success stories. So you see how they minimize it. There's some success stories, right? We're going to minimize that. But we have zero evidence that on average, homeschool students are doing well. Are they serious? It's just another one of those things where, because they can't regulate it and they can't steal our data and use it for their gain, because that's what this is all about. You know, Facebook is known. There's, for a long time, and every once in a while it comes out again, but there's this chain letter that comes out, but it's a chain post. You remember chain letters back in the day? I'm old enough to remember those. So the chain post comes out, right, talking about how Facebook is going to charge $9.99 or whatever if you don't share this post. Okay, first of all, Facebook will never charge you, because they are profiting off of every click you make. Every time you click on something on Facebook, that's another item of data that they add to their database that continues to make them money. So they would never charge you $10 when they can get 2 million from you and all of your data. It's not a good trade. This, with homeschool and not being able to regulate and collect all of this data, does not give them gain, and it doesn't help their bottom line. And so that is always going to be a situation that they hate. There's actually no way to learn how they do on average, because homeschoolers don't exist as a visible population due to the lack of regulation. It's exactly what I just said. They can't grab data, right? There are claims being made in what is really junk social science that homeschool students do just as well as kids in regular schools. So they called that junk science. But there's no justification for those claims. People making those claims are looking at a subset of the most successful homeschooled students. They're looking at the ones who actually apply to college and go to college and are assessing how they do in college compared to kids coming from public schools. So that's junk science. But the fact that life begins at conception is also junk science to them too. Those studies tell us nothing about how well homeschoolers do on average. This right here, this whole entire answer from her is used to detour you, discourage you, and make you think, well, she might be right. You know, okay, so tell me this. Answer me this. What does her knowing or having the data in front of her have anything to do with what you see before your eyes? She doesn't get the opportunity to gaslight you. I see that as a positive. She doesn't get the opportunity to profit off of you. I see that as a positive. They feel like they always need to know everything. They're nosy. They're absolutely nosy. And if they can't know, then it can't possibly be good. And that's a problem. Okay, so finally, it says, let's see, you call for sorry, I'm struggling with this word. Presumptive ban on homeschooling. What do you mean by this? A ban, which, by the way, I want you guys to know, France just banned homeschooling. It can't happen. I'd like to see a radical transformation of the homeschooling regimen. I would not ban all homeschooling, but would require that parents demonstrate that they have a legitimate reason to homeschool. So now they want us to ask permission and propose that we have a valid reason to homeschool. Maybe their child is a super athlete. Maybe the school in the area are terrible. Maybe the schools in the area are terrible. They should also demonstrate that they're qualified to provide an adequate education and that they would provide an education comparable in scope to what is required in public schools. Again, she's showing her dross. What they really want is for the indoctrination to reach from the public school all the way into the homeschool. That's really what this is all about.
What they're also doing, this article is doing, is reinforcing and empowering the people that think like her to look down upon homeschooling, so that if you have family members or friends, you're immediately going to try to discourage them from homeschooling their kids. Definitely see this as more of a feeding the more liberal mindset of folks, to give them the tools to be able to fight against allowing conservatives or more parents to not homeschool their kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, what do we do? What do we do?
So much. Oh.
We stand up and we fight.
Kids, folks.
Homeschool your kids. Yes. Go against this woman, because our society is better without their, our society is better when it remains free. We already see that socialism and communism do not work. Overreaching, over-regulating, over-governmenting, all that tyranny does not work. And all she wants to do is reach into your home and regulate what you do inside your home with your own children. They're trying to steal your children away from you. They are trying to steal your power. They want the power to demand what you teach them, what you feed them, what you put into their bodies. We already see that. What you make them wear. We see that with the big M. You know, this is what they want to do, is they want to regulate all of the things that you do as a parent.
Control.
And it's just not okay. And we need to stand up to that now. I know that everybody has a line. And I've talked about this before on BCP's page. Everybody has a line. And some people's line was crossed years ago. Some people's line was crossed last year on election night. Some people's line was crossed on January 6th. Some people's line was crossed on August 7th. That would be me, when bombs were thrown. Although my line was crossed a lot sooner than that, it's just that this was a different kind of line. But everybody has a line. But you can only go so far, and you can only let them do so much because every line that they crossed, there's really not, it's harder to get back. So if you've got 10 lines and they've crossed 7, you're not getting back all the way to the beginning. You may regain 1 or 2, maybe, but all those other 5 are gone. They're long gone. We're not regaining all of that. So every time they take something, every time they overreach, we're giving up another piece of our freedom. And if we don't want to lose our children and the ability to parent them outside of the government, then we need to stand up now. And somebody posted about, these are really long. Oh, somebody's giving their testimony. Somebody posted about school choice. Yes. Oh, somebody posted the website to HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association.org. Go there. But also, school choice for Oregonians. What they want to do, if this is the same thing, is this the same woman who was at the meet and greet the other night? School choice for Oregonians?
Yes, Donna.
Okay, good. She wants to create law, a constitutional amendment that gets school choice on the ballot and also would allocate money into those other school choices. So even if you decide to homeschool, that, just public school wouldn't be the only beneficiary of that stuff. Now, I don't know how I feel. School choice, absolutely. I don't know how I feel about allocating money, because once you start getting money, then regulation starts coming. And I'd rather pay for it out of my own pocket and tell them to shove it. So, I'm kind of torn on that. It's one of the reasons why our family, even though we would qualify for welfare for the rest of our lives, or at least until our last child for the next 20 years, we choose not to. Because when they're giving you something, you have to jump through their hoops. And it's just like what we see with politicians. The people who donate and the people who pay, they have to jump through those people's hoops, and they have to do what would make them happy. And so this is definitely something that we would need to think long and hard on as far as that goes. But as far as the freedom to homeschool our children within our home, the way we see fit, because honestly, there is already regulation. It's just that most states have pretty low regulations. The states that have the most would be Pennsylvania, New York, Rhode Island. There's only like 4 or 5 states that have, the most regulations, which we'll talk about in a later show. The rest of the states, there's a few that have moderate, and then a lot of states have next to no regulation. You can pretty much do whatever you want. So, and that bothers them. So, anyways, what else did you want to?
No, I think that you just to be aware of the government and just the school system's going to try to keep them from doing what's right. And what I keep telling parents, because I don't have all the answers, but I want to bring, I want to partner up with you and other people so that we can do this. Parents need to take their children back.
Yes.
Those children belong to the parents. And parents, don't feel intimidated, don't feel discouraged, don't feel like you can't ask questions.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you don't know. Of course, I mean, it's always scary to think of, having to teach algebra. I mean, I probably run from that. But you know what? You never know what the community is going to do and how they're going to help you. So don't ever feel, I hope that people can share this, can share your podcasts that are coming up, your videos that are coming up, that you're preparing, because this is what, this is important. And if people ask questions, we have resources and things and places that we can get answers for them and encouragement. I'm really proud of you. I'm so excited to be a little part of this, to be able to help parents, because I open my mouth all the time and I want parents are always, well, what am I going to do? And because I don't have little ones, I'm not in that position. That doesn't mean that I don't care and I don't want to help. Hi, little one. Mommy time now. They want mommy.
They've decided, okay, now is the time. They decide how long the show is. I don't.
That's right. So thank you for having me on, and anything else that I can do, let me know.
Yeah, we're going to keep working on getting some resources set up. I'm setting up a resource page and trying to make sure that we're getting the questions answered so that you guys can make informed decisions and do what's best for your kids. But I do want to, point out that, like Anita said, don't be discouraged, because there's no better time than now to bring your kids home and take that power back. So I
Yeah.
totally echo what she said. And we're going to keep trying to provide as much help as we can to get those questions answered and give you the courage to face that fear head on. Victory is what we want to see. Okay. So anyways, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much, Anita. You are absolutely amazing. So we will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.